We go.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Olivet City Council meeting. Today is February 22nd, 2022. Can we please take the roll, please?
Councilmember Carl,
Here.
Councilmember Waldman,
Here.
Councilmember Knox,
Here.
Chairman Weil.
Who's absent with excuse?
Okay, Mayor.
Here.
Okay, Mayor, item number 2 is communications. We don't have any written communications, but we do have some swearing ins.
Okay, so we got some swearing in today. We got some fine folks that are going to be joining our ranks. Let's get it started.
That is not plugged in, Chief, so I was just going to bring you this.
Good evening. My name is David Wolf. I am the Chief of Police for the Olivet Police Department, and we do have a couple swearing in for a new officer as well as a promotion. But first, I'd like to introduce the Police Department's new records clerk. Her name is Sarah Fujawa. I don't know the best way for you to turn so the council can see you and the camera can see you.
Towards the camera.
This way. So this is Sarah. She comes to us from, she actually was a dispatcher for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. So she has some background in a police department as well as law enforcement computer systems and so forth. She graduated from Maryville University in 2021 with a degree in criminal justice. And she also did an internship with the Crestwood Police Department. So she's our new records clerk. We are very, very excited to have her. And I do want to give you your records clerk badge and your ID. So welcome aboard. Sergeant Seltzer.
Stand, please, Mayor, and then we can have you in the camera.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mayor Sidney Clark, and we're about to swear in this fine gentleman, at least promote this fine gentleman. If you would repeat after me. Come a little closer. So you can hear it. I, your name,
Eric Seltzer,
do solemnly swear to affirm that I possess all the qualifications to serve as sergeant.
that's a lot to remember. Do solemnly swear that you have to give me a little bit more.
All right.
All right. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I possess all the qualifications to serve as sergeant for the city of Olivet, Missouri.
Okay. That I will support
That I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United
this
States,
state of Missouri,
the state of Missouri,
and the charter and ordinance of
and the charter and ordinance of
the city of Olivet,
the city of Olivet,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
execute the duties of this office
execute the duties of this office
by abiding law enforcement code of ethics.
by abiding law enforcement code of ethics.
And I recognize the badge of my office
And I recognize the badge of my office
as a symbol of public faith,
as a symbol of public faith.
and I accept it as a public trust
And I accept it as a public trust
to be held and honored.
to be held and honored.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. At least. Get a picture with you.
And the mayor, I think there's someone else is going to be pinning Sergeant Seltzer.
Yes.
Don't want to get that out.
Can you tell us who we have here?
This is Amelia. She's gonna do a pinning for me, and Jackson is gonna assist by.
We can't hear. We can't hear.
Hello.
And if we want to do a couple photos, we can do those now.
Let's get a picture of your family. Right here.
Before he leaves, could he identify his beautiful family? We were not able to hear that.
We'll have him do that in one moment.
So this is, I don't know if they can hear me, this is a 1 year old. He just turned 1 last week. And then this is my wife, Katrina.
We have one more, Mayor.
Lady, would you step forward, please? Raise your hand, please. I, if you state your name,
I, Latora Hoskins,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and or affirm
that I possess all the qualifications to serve as
that I possess all the qualifications to serve as
patrol officer for the city of Olivet, Missouri,
patrol officer for the city of Olivet, Missouri,
and that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the state of Missouri,
the state of Missouri,
and the charter and ordinance of the city of Olivet,
and the charter and ordinance of the city of Olivet,
and that I will faithfully execute the duties of this office
and I will faithfully execute the duties of this office
by abiding by the law enforcement code of ethics.
by abiding by the law enforcement code of ethics.
I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of faith.
I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of faith,
I should say public faith.
public faith,
That's my bad. And that I accept it as a public trust to be held and honored.
and I accept it as a public trust to be held and honored.
Congratulations. Your people, come on up here. That's all right. Everybody who came here to see it, come on up.
Hold
here.
on.
Everybody.
Here's a crew. And who's gonna be pinning you? And this is the safest place to be tonight. We have so many police officers and her family. We are.
Holy crap.
Okay.
The best part of this is that at the next family gathering, we're gonna have lots of babies and little kids.
The house no more, they charged me too.
Here comes the boring part.
Mayor, if you'd like, I can go ahead and start the city manager's report.
Please.
First, I'd like to just point out and remind people of the day, 22, so kind of a special day here. The new, most recent Olivet Live from March should have hit people's mailboxes at the end of last week, beginning of this week. I think it's really one of our better magazines, one of our better newsletters. It's got a lot of great information in it, some new things. And I think that if you haven't gotten it, it is available online at the website. It's also, you can always come by the city hall or the community center and pick up a copy as well. Just the second meeting of the month, we always have reports from our departments. I want to encourage people to go onto the agenda and look at those. There's also another segment on the website where you can see some of these reports, and just a couple of things to note. The Public Works Department has released 4 new bid packets. Those things will be coming back then to the council within the next few months. And this St. Louis County has published the Dealman Road. That's the Olive DePage bid packet with an opening date of March 9th. That's Dealman Road right here in front of the city hall. I think we've been waiting for a while for that to get done, and it looks like it's going to be, it's moving along. At the last planning commission meeting, I believe there was an approval, or they were looking for an approval of a single story, what they're calling kind of, I believe it's lot 4. Is that correct, Carlos? Of the development, lot 3, I'm sorry. Yeah, lot 3. And that's going to be, this is the eastern side. So it's kind of this area here that we're looking at. And so you can see the public space here, the retaining wall, and that's the existing water basin that they've been working on, and the outdoor dining. And so that project is moving forward. They also discussed a conceptual design for redevelopment, a 14-unit attached home development, so the more like a townhomes. It's on the west side of Hilltop Drive, north of Chevy's. So it's this area right here. The developer came before the Planning Commission, and this was just kind of to introduce the project and talk a little bit about what's happening. You may see this area. So here's Chevy's, and this is the area that is being redeveloped into by Opus into the apartment complex. So we're looking at the redevelopment of these homes into more of a townhome. The Olivet Parks Department has started their, you can register for their camps. I get my hand off the mouse there. Register for their camps again this year. They're offering a variety of camps. Some Camp O is the traditional camp that the city operates. And along with, this will be the second year now for the grant, and that is where kids spend a week and they learn about different departments of the city of Olivet. It was a very popular camp last year. If you see park crews in the parks removing various amenities, they are preparing for construction. As you recall, at the last council board meeting, you approved entering into a contract with Hankins Construction. And so they're working ahead to make sure they're removing some of the amenities so that the parks are ready. And for the grading and whatever other work might be necessary, some of these will be reinstalled, some will be stored, and so that work is also starting. So don't be too afraid if you see some things being removed from the parks. The West County Citizen Police Academy, you can still register from that. For that, you just go online, olivetmo.com. And that is an organization of Olivet, Creve Coeur, De Pere, Frontenac, and Town and Country Police Departments. It's a 9-week in-person classroom training. I think it's 1 day a week. And it gets a lot of praise from the citizens who attend this. They look at the items there, the constitutional and criminal law, use of force, criminal investigations, traffic safety, DWI enforcement. And I'm sure they're willing to address any other kind of questions that citizens may have. And the idea is really to better understand the operations of a police department, to ask questions and really to exchange some information. Body worn cameras, as the council is aware, you approved that in a capital improvement budget for this year. We're getting close to deploying these cameras, and there's always, as any kind of, when you introduce a new technology, there's always a lot of steps involved, not just purchase of the cameras, but the software that runs it, all the installation, and then also just making sure you have all the policies and procedures in place for, when does someone turn on their camera? What are the requirements for how long do you keep the recordings? And what are the policies around people requesting copies of the images? And so there's quite a bit that goes into that. And so we're getting pretty close. We anticipate having it in the field this year. Couple of staffing, we've talked before. The Assistant Fire Chief Ron Johnson will be retiring. His initial date was February 22nd. He is moving that last date to February 28th after 22 years of service with the city of Olivet. Also moving on, not retiring, but moving to the private sector, or the dark side as we call it. After 4 years with the city is Megan Huckel. People will know her as our recreation coordinator. And so we are, as you know, firefighter Tim Fain has been promoted to assistant chief, and we are looking for seeking applications for the recreation coordinator. This is the Opus project we talked about a little bit earlier at the Irvington Rhyme. The picture on the bottom left is a view from Bruce McGregor's office, and it's a little bit stocky-ish, but he's just checking on the neighbors, making sure everything's going well. And you'll see that quite a number of those homes are down now. And so they had, as we had talked about, one of our more recent updates, they were going to be applying for those demolition permits. They've done that, and they have started demolition. The picture on the right, the top, they allowed the Olivet Fire Department to do a number of trainings utilizing the empty buildings. In the fire department report, you'll see a lot of other pictures and an explanation of the different trainings they were able to do on those vacant homes. Olive Crossing, the picture on the left is actually just from today. The Ameren continues the transfer of the electrical lines. Those, as you recall, they're going to be buried underground at the Olive Crossing. This is actually in front of the shops at Price Crossing, because all of those, number of those poles need to be, new poles had to be put in, and they needed to be moved south to make way for an additional lane that is going to be added there in that area. And so again, this is the work going on there. We hope that they'll be done within the next several weeks. On the right is a picture of, they were drilling the piles or the piers for the garage associated with the apartment complex. That work has started. And so again, we're seeing more and more actual work taking place there as they gear up with the construction. And for the upcoming calendar, we have the City Council work session is March 1, next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Planning and Community Design Commission is March 3rd at 7 p.m. City Council regular meeting is March 8th at 7 PM. Park and Recreation Commission is March 16th at 7 PM. Planning and Community Design Commission is March 17th at 7 PM. And the next the second regular meeting in March for the council will be March 22nd. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Seeing none, I think we can move on to the next item. Denise.
Item number 4 is city council reports.
Councilmember Waldman, do you have anything to report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I always note that Mr. Trejo always provides the city and the council a wonderful summary and report from the Planning Community Design Commission meetings. One of the items that was on the Planning Community Design Commission meeting will be on the agenda tonight. The body continues to work and discuss other important topics. Mr. Trejo and Don Doty began to do a little bit of conversation briefly on the comprehensive plan. They had a very long meeting. The body has been very mindful and patient with regards to citizens and their being a part of the conversation when there are developments being under review. And for the most part, that's kind of my report for now. Carlos does a really good job and provides a more detailed summary. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Knox.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Carl.
I have nothing to report, Mayor.
Okay. And I do not have anything to report myself. So Barb, I'll hand that over to you.
So item number 5 is the monthly financial report.
Get that teed up here for Finance Director Darren Mann.
Good evening, everyone. In there, I'll start off with just a brief kind of synopsis of where we are. The revenues are remain higher, and so do expenditures. Revenue higher to the tune of 403,000. Expenditures below expectations, about 230,000. That's a number that we've seen through most of the year. Net favorable balances of 633,000. As we move into our budgeting time, kind of it's always good to know why we're too high or why we're too low. And I think a lot of the numbers kind of will tell us here that as we go through these tonight. But looking at our dashboard there at the bottom, everything looks fairly in line. Property taxes are a little slower than what we'd expect through this time of the year. The county has indicated they did have some slower processing due to staffing shortages right around the time of bill processing due to the pandemic. But our numbers appear valid for our budget, so we'll expect that to pick back up. Sales tax is also doing pretty well, and we'll get a chart here for that here in just a second. The next page, we'll see the reserve policy again, like we have talked about all year, well within compliance at $4.4 million. Sales taxes doing very well. We did have that dip in December that has kind of corrected itself so tells us more of it's a timing issue. Property taxes, like I said, a little slower, a little behind where we would expect to be. Utility taxes are hanging in there. Electric gross receipts are above where we thought, but that is offset with some shortfalls in telecom and natural gas. The other categories, which is the rest of our income, has it has switched to mix. It was all positive in the previous month, ever so slightly, but permits revenue and other income are doing very well, kind of as we had expected. With the pictures we see with the city manager's report, lots of development going on. On the expenditure side, the pages that would follow this would tell us that it's not one department doing it. But it is a category, and that personnel category, and it's mostly due to vacancies. And we swore in 2 people today, and another promotion. So it kind of tells you where we're at with some of those vacancies as they're being filled. So maybe we'd see that kind of level off. Also, legal costs remain a little bit lower than expected. And that kind of sums up on the expenditure side. As we look at our charts, I included 2 charts this month, and the Stormwater Parks sales tax itself, we don't share any of it. We get to keep all of it, less the 1.5% the state charges us to collect it. And so the bright orange kind of glowing line is, you can see, is at times much better. And ever since August has either been, we count, I know there's a lot going on, but if we count the number of little points, it's about third. If you look at the other lines, you can see that it's not the same color every single time, but our orange line has remained about the third highest or the highest month there in September throughout the whole year. And so our sales taxes are doing well, or the collections are doing very well. And that is reflected in our fire operations tax and also in our capital improvement sales tax. They're doing better than we thought. And it's because they're about the third highest months pretty consistently through the last 7 years as we look. So again, this is our point of sale, essentially what happens and is sold inside the boundaries of the city. And if we go to the next chart, is the public safety sales tax. That's from Prop P back in 2018. You can see it start there right at the bottom in December. And this is distributed to us per capita, per person, based on our percentage of total county population. And it doesn't change. It's the same populations according to this through this entire time period. And you can see the orange line, the colors match up. This orange is higher. And this means that the countywide sales tax per capita average has went up through this entire year. And what that means is, if we apply that to our 1% sales tax, is since we are sharing our revenue based on the countywide average, if this line right here goes up, then we share less. And that is the story of our sales tax, is why we have not necessarily collected more sales tax inside the city of Olivet. We just have to share less because the per capita has went up in total. And so that kind of summarizes where we're at as we go toward the budgeting. If we had predicted, we were able to predict these numbers, we can predict our sharing. And if we can predict our point of sales, then we can kind of apply these whole things. And it caught us by surprise. Again, I would say I would not have anticipated this. And so as we move into next year, we can take this information and hope it project to continue, or using whatever information we have at the time to kind of project forward. So that's why we're $600,000 in a variance. We have had vacancies this year, and sales taxes have been strong. So I think that reflects on a macro level what we see in economic reports and the newspapers too. So it's not really surprising, but here's how it impacts the city. That's all I have from my report, though.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mann.
Item number 6 is hearing from citizens.
There is someone who has their hand up. Emma, should I go ahead and promote to a panelist?
Sure.
Okay, I'll be promoting you over. And you'll be able to unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you like, and speak to the council.
Okay. Okay, good evening. I have a concern about the sidewalks during our bad snowstorm that we had a few weeks ago. I was driving down Olive and I saw an elderly gentleman walking in the curb with a cane because the sidewalks were not cleaned. And I really felt terrible how the cars were splashing on him, and I was so worried that he was going to fall. And I was wondering, whose responsibility is it to take care of the sidewalks on Olive, like in front of the mall, of the shopping center, down Dealman, Old Bottom, like from school up to Olive. And then I'm concerned about the new businesses that are going in. are they going to become aware, if it's their obligation, if they're going to be aware of it, and if they do not take care of it, what happens?
Mayor, would you like me to address this?
Would you
a little
please?
bit? It is the responsibility of the property, the owner and whose property is, the sidewalk is in front. To be honest, the city has not been enforcing that. Particularly, it was kind of interesting. There was a lot of discussion about this with amongst other city managers after the snow. A lot of the cities saying we might have it on there, but enforcement has been difficult. We've had some internal discussions about that with regard to, how do you get people to do that. And I think we're going to continue to look at that. If the council is, we can do it a number of ways. We can we can drive about after the storm and put notices. I kind of start with a friendly notice. And then move on from there. It's,
When I came home that day, I looked up Olivet's, I guess, code or whatever. It says after 24 hours, it should be cleared.
mhm.
And
Yes.
this is after 24 hours, and not even the salt was not sprinkled on the sidewalks.
Right. I'm not disputing that. I'm not saying that people aren't. I'm just saying, I'm just talking about how the city has and has not been enforcing that. And I will, if the council would like us to more actively enforce that, we will be happy to do so.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thanks for taking the time.
Can we put that on a workshop agenda, Mr. Mayor?
No problem with that at all.
I'll look again. I don't see any other. Anyone else with their hand up, Mayor?
Okay, let's move forward.
Okay, item number 7 is bill number 2968, an ordinance of the city of Olivet, Missouri that repeals and replaces in its entirety chapter 105 elections, article 1 elections and nominations, sections 105.010 through 105.050. Second reading.
Mayor, this is as it says, a second reading. This actually normally would have been on your agenda for a second reading at your last meeting. And it got missed on that agenda for getting placed on that. So it's before you tonight. And the council spent a number of meetings discussing how to essentially clarify the language within this section. And when we talk about the elections and nominating select sections, this is really specifically about people running for the city council. And I think that what the council has come up with at the end is it's a much more clear and easy to read ordinance that I think is, again, meets one of the goals of the council, which is to put more policies and procedures into plain English. So with that, I'm not sure if anyone has any questions on that.
If no one has any questions, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to approve Bill number 2968, an ordinance of the city of Olivet, Missouri that repeals and replaces in its entirety Chapter 105 Elections, Article 1, Elections and Nominations, Section 105.010 to 105.050.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All right, can we poll the council?
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox,
yes,
Mayor.
Yes.
Motion passed by action of the Olivet City Council. Bill number 2968 becomes ordinance number 2740.
Okay, what do we have next?
Item number 8 is bill number 2969, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2734 in reference to the adoption of a certain salary schedule. First and second reading.
And then my microphone on. This is something Darren and I've talked about, because our salary schedule is within the budget ordinance. When we need to make a change to the salary schedule, we actually need to do it as an amendment to the ordinance. And we're gonna talk about how maybe we do that a little bit differently in the upcoming budget year. Essentially, what we have is as we prepare for the opening of the new community center, we are going to be adding some new positions to the salary schedule. This is really one of the first ones, which is a guest services supervisor. The position description was in the packet for you to review as well. This position would go into the salary schedule at the same level as a recreation coordinator, which is actually a position we've had for a number of years. And so, I'm sorry, recreation supervisor, not coordinator. We don't have anyone in the recreation supervisor position at this point, but we do have a position description. It is on the salary scale. So the only thing we're really looking at tonight is an amendment to the salary scale to add that guest services, that position. And we have, in working with Beverly Tucker Knight on this, we anticipate that the majority of the other positions will actually get added during the budget process. So the next time you're actually formally reviewing that salary scale, we're hoping to have most of those other positions, new positions, ready to go. And so we'll do it at that point in time. We have asked for a first and second reading on this. The only reason for that is so that we can kind of move forward with the advertising of the position. We don't anticipate having anybody on board prior to, prior to the next 3 weeks. But I felt somewhat uncomfortable. It was a little bit of a catch-22. We can have a first meeting this evening if the council is aware and okay with the fact that we will be advertising for that position. And then we can bring it back for a second reading at the first regular meeting of March, or we could ask for a first and a second reading. I just don't like to get too far ahead of the council on these things. I don't think this is necessarily a controversial position. Kind of go back to the Ballard King report, utilizing, their pro forma of what positions we should have, that type of thing. This all fits within that. But I'm open to however the council would like to proceed on this.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask a question of the city manager, just for clarification.
Proceed.
Barb, is this rec/guest services supervisor, is this going to be taking over the position of a recreational supervisor, and thus, as in its description, be different than what the former recreational supervisor position entailed?
No, we would continue to have the recreation coordinators. And it's actually two positions. It's a recreation supervisor and the guest services supervisor. I'm not sure if that really might be on.
Sure. And I'm sorry, that,
No. I'm just trying to make sure that's her.
Mhm.
But she has her hand up, so I'm gonna assume it is.
Okay.
There she is. Okay.
Hi,
Sorry,
everybody.
I just wasn't
Hi.
sure.
I apologize. Good evening, everyone. Councilmember Waldman, that's an excellent question. So We had the old recreation supervisor position that's been vacant for a long time. And we dusted it off and updated it to be a more modern job description and to fulfill the duties of supervising the programs. We'll have much more robust and expanded programs with the new facility. And then the guest services supervisor has a kind of a different realm of supervisory. It's much more focused to the experience within the physical building. So the guest services supervisor will be in charge of managing the new facility as well as hitting those key membership goals, because there will be membership sales that go along with this. So this person very much needs to make sure that the building is functioning correctly, that it's clean and welcoming, and that we have very friendly staff with outstanding customer service working throughout the building. So it's two different functions, but both supervisory at the same level of the pay scale.
It would be two different positions at the end of the day. Okay.
Correct.
All right. As we, as you guys come back to us more, do you feel that there would need to be an assistant recreation coordinator? Is that something you're all looking at as well?
We will keep our two rec coordinator positions that exist
Okay.
now.
Okay.
We will have a lot of part-time staff coming on board with fitness attendants, the playground attendants, front desk attendants. And then we also have a new maintenance position coming on that'll be daytime maintenance of that building and day porter duties, making sure things are neat and tidy and functioning and helping set up those rooms, but being a much more forward-facing integral part of the team. We'll keep our evening cleaners that are contract. So we will be adding, in the next fiscal year, we'll be adding one more full-time position and then several part-time positions.
Okay, I appreciate the information. Thanks a whole lot.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Do we have any other questions from the council?
No.
Does the council want to do a first and second reading, or do you want to just do a first one tonight, knowing that we're advertising?
I have no issue just doing a one reading if that's not needed to do a second if we just say, okay, advertise.
I totally agree with that. I agree with my council member, Greg.
Okay, we would just need a motion to set aside regular rules then.
Wait a minute. I think.
Oh, you're
you
okay.
heard-
Oh,
I think what I heard was that we will read it once. We are okay with you going ahead and advertising, and we will read it again at the next council meeting. And forgive me, Greg, if I'm
You did not.
misspeaking.
That's what
Okay.
I figured we wouldn't deviate from standard procedure unless there was a real necessity, so.
Absolutely.
sorry, I
Okay, thank you.
interpreted read it once as do them both tonight. Sorry.
Yeah, you want to get the job done. We get it.
That's all good. Thank you then. Next item then.
Item number 9 is bill number 2970. An ordinance to approve a final subdivision plat titled Olivet Terrace Lots 11 through 15 Boundary Adjustment. First and possible second reading.
Okay, and we have Planning and Community Development Director Carlos Trejo is with us this evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Carlos Trejo. I am the Director of Planning and Community Development with the City of Olivet. And tonight before you is a final subdivision plat for a 4-lot subdivision at the south east portion of the terminus of Dolores Avenue, which is off of Olive Boulevard in there. This petition originally came before me. It's almost approaching a year, back in April, where a property owner who had combined 3 previous lots in the past to build a single family home had sold the property with the information that it could be subdivided back to the original lots within that subdivision. When the developer approached me, we reviewed the city's current zoning regulations and found out that they couldn't, and therefore they reassessed the property and how its boundaries were set. And at one point, we're going to appeal to the Zoning Board of Adjustment for some waivers to the necessary widths and areas. But we're able to coordinate with an adjacent property owner to kind of resolve those issues and maintain within code. Another issue that you're aware of is that there is a creek that bisects through this property. That creek is protected under the city's stream buffer ordinance, chapter 420, I believe. However, that creek has been artificially modified in the past. It's now a cage gabion wall system, and therefore it doesn't have any natural the creek edges are not as natural as before, and the council was part of a commission recommendation process to remove the a buffer protection for the stream bank, since the stream bank no longer is natural, but to still require a setback from the stream bank, and to require that a BMP be incorporated to mitigate any impurities going into that stream bank and such. This item went before the Planning Community Design Commission. It was initially scheduled February 3rd, but however, due to the storm, that meeting was canceled. If it was held, it would have been before the council on February 8th. However, being that it was canceled, the commission did review the plat on February 18th and unanimously motioned to forward a recommendation to the council for approval. I do want to note a couple of things that the developer worked with staff diligently and collaboratively on that, and that was kind of cleaning up some issues of platting issues that led to problems due to some decisions in the past. That stream that bisects the property on the north side actually had a piece of property that, in order to maintain it, you had to go all the way down to the street, around the creek on private property, just to get to your piece of private property at the backyard. The developer, reached out to the neighbor to the north, coordinated with them. They did a trade in properties, with the neighbor to the north getting a larger piece of property grounds that they had in the past in exchange. What that does for the city is that it clears up and cleans up how those properties are maintained, and that's one of the goals and objectives of our subdivision code, is to improve the platting process and make sure that the properties operate efficiently, and that includes when you bisect properties through them. So that is what is before you tonight. You have the final subdivision plat. This is the legal instrument that would be recorded in the St. Louis County Recorder of Deeds, and that would officially create the 3 new lots from the former single-family home, and boundary adjust the neighboring property to the north. Be glad to answer any specific questions in here. And again, I had listed this for 2 readings given the delay of the February 3rd storm. This was initially anticipated to be before the council on February 8th, and I had made the attempt to kind of facilitate that process in there. So I'd be glad to answer any questions regarding that action, and if not, this item's before you for a first reading.
Any questions from the council?
Mr. Mayor, if I could have everybody's ear. I'm going to address the request that was made for a second reading on this on this item. After I do acknowledge that the developer, when a developer wants to do something, they'll put in the work to do what they got to do. And this gentleman did, where other developers did not see the potential for this property, and he did his due diligence. However, there is no urgency. As my fellow council member indicated in the previous item that we discussed, there is no urgency here. This is not a city urgency need, and I'm going to let you know that I would not support a second reading. I humbly apologize to that gentleman. I do not see what another 2 weeks would do. If we did this, we would be setting a precedence in my 22 years. And I just don't want to go down this road for a private residential development where there is no urgency. So that's the only thing I am not in support of doing. I am willing to acknowledge the first reading and bringing this back at the next city council meeting. But as I always say, I am but one vote. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have any questions or statements from other council members at this time?
Is there an urgency from the developer's perspective, Carlos?
He is here in attendance. That's probably a question best asked from him in there. Outside of again the due diligence he's worked through in that process in there. So I'm not aware of any recording condition. There might be other commitments that they have in place, but not that I'm aware of.
Also inquire of the developer, I guess.
Sorry?
You want to bring them over?
Yeah, inquire if there's an urgency on the developer
Okay.
side that would make us consider changing our standard procedure.
Schindler over. Schindler, when you come over, you just unmute yourself, and if you turn your camera on.
All right, everybody, can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Jeff Schindler with Schindler Homes. And to answer your question, sir, what I sincerely appreciate a second reading, I would. It's like Carlos said, I've been working with him since April, and it's certainly been it's been taking longer than we thought, but we worked really hard. Is there something contractually I have to have done in the next 2 weeks? No. So, I mean, I would greatly appreciate it, but I certainly understand your process and respect your guys' opinion. So.
I guess what I would actually say is if we didn't get the second reading tonight, what would it delay? That's really the question.
Sure. The house itself that would be coming down is a fine home. I could resell it. I mean, it's for me, it's important because I really need to get these homes built this year, and I need to keep working on getting the asbestos remediated, which is going to start damaging the house. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to take place as soon as possible. But again, contractually, it doesn't hurt me. It sets me back farther than, I'd hoped to been at this process the end of last year, and we're looking at March now, and so that's the honest answer I can give you, sir.
Okay, so I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, do you currently own the properties that are being consolidated?
Yes, I do.
Is there any reason you can't start this work without this subdivision? Filed?
No, and I'm hopeful that everybody is in agreement with what we've worked with staff on. It's just we can start tearing into stuff and start tearing stuff out. It's just, I guess, a level of comfort before I start damaging the home that's there type of situation. But again,
okay. So I understand it, but I also understand that we try not to deviate from our standard procedures unless we can identify a very.
No, I completely understand it. And again, I respect your guys' opinion. I really do.
Okay, so I would suggest we, again, read it for the first time tonight and proceed with a second reading at our next meeting, as standard procedure would dictate.
I understand. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
While you're here, I do want
Yes,
the
we
council
support
to
the
understand
council. I just want you to know
you
that.
have really done a phenomenal job in putting your sweat and equity into it. And although the pandemic and other things slowed you down, this is the first reading. You don't need to worry about the second reading. It's coming. All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
And continue your great work with the city and Carlos.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns from any other councilmen?
No.
Okay.
Okay, item number 10 is bill number 2971, the ordinance amending Article 8A CC City Center District, being part of Chapter 400 zoning regulations of Title 4 Land Use of the Olivet Municipal Code regarding multifamily residential land uses. First reading.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Again, I'm Carlos Trejo, the Director of Planning and Community Development with the City of Olivet. And tonight for first reading is a text amendment to our City Center District to authorize the construction of multifamily residential developments through the site plan review process. Currently, under the ordinance conditions, multifamily residential is permitted within the district, but it has to be part of a mixed-use development type. And this is similar to what we did for the Oliver. That works well when the properties are abutting the Olive Boulevard corridor to kind of encourage, the vision of the 2006 comprehensive plan. But as you get further from Olive, trying to incorporate retail or commercial use is a little bit more difficult. In this case, we have a development proposal on Dealman, which, in accordance with the overall city center district vision, would be best under the city center district zoning category. But because of the limitations that on multifamily residential, this will help resolve that and allow for a defined parcel to be redeveloped with multifamily uses without having to have an additional mixed use component like you did at the Oliver or at the Plant Haven development and such. So this is somewhat of a cleanup. Again, it furthers the vision of the 2006 comprehensive plan. It helps implement the goals and objectives for the city center, and it furthers the city's focus on community development, economic development, transportation connections, and public spaces. This item is here for first reading. We are scheduled to have a second reading on March 8th, in conjunction a public hearing on that date, and that has been published in the St. Louis County on February 21st. So be glad to answer any specific questions. And again, I will go through a further detailed review at the public hearing on March 8th.
I have no questions, Mr. Mayor.
Else have any questions or concerns?
No, sir.
No.
Thank you all.
Item number 11 is approval of the 2022-2023 Missouri Department of Transportation Traffic Enforcement Grants.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is David Wolf. I am the Chief of Police for the City of Olivet. And before I get onto this, just a little fun fact about our new officer, Latora Hoskins. She used to work at Subway. She started there in about 2010, worked there till 2017. And I'm sure Council Member Knox remembers when he was chief and he and I would have lunch there. And Latora would tell us that her dream job was to be an officer in Olivet. And she left Subway. She worked at St. Louis County Courts. She went to St. Louis City and was an officer there for about 3 years. And then she joined us about a month ago. And it is just, it's really a very kind of a cool Cinderella story. She's very excited to be here and we are very, very excited to have her. So dreams do come true. So it was pretty cool. So anyway, in front of you tonight is a request to approve the traffic grants that we typically participate in every year. This year, we're asking that we approve or you approve for the city and the police department to enter into two grants with the Missouri Department of Transportation. One is for DWI enforcement in the amount of $2,500. The other one is an HMV grant, or hazardous moving violations, and that is in a total amount of $9,288. The vast majority of those funds cover overtime for officers to work these grants. Also included in that HMV grant, we are requesting 2 new mounted radar units for our patrol vehicles. Typically, this is one way that we are able to fund and keep cycling those radar units out. With new ones, we're requesting that MoDOT fund 75% of the cost and installation, and then the city would be responsible for 25%, which amounts to $1,096. Pretty straightforward, but I am happy to answer any questions.
You have any questions or concerns from the council?
No, sir.
So I have one question for the chief.
Yes, sir.
Chief, the DWI grants, are those roving patrol, or what is the new procedure for the DWI grants?
Correct. So those are roving patrols where officers will come in typically Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights is when those officers will come in and work overtime to work those grants. Checkpoints, DWI checkpoints are no longer authorized. They have been ruled unconstitutional by the state legislature. And so those we haven't done checkpoints for quite some time, but that money does pay for, like you mentioned, sir, roving patrols, which actually we find that we're more successful in removing impaired drivers that way than through the checkpoints in any case.
Great. And will some of those be on some of the holidays where there's usually a lot of drinking?
Yes. So not only does that overtime cover the opportunity to work sort of the higher periods of time where you may find impaired drivers, but the department also participates in what are termed mini grants, where we will participate periodically throughout the year. MoDOT will fund $500 here, $500 there on St. Patrick's Day or July 4th or things like that, and we work those grants as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Chief, if I could follow up with a question on that $2,500 item as well. And if you don't know the answer, it's okay. I always get curious. How many hours do you get out of $2,500 for a cop to be on the street? You know,
You get somewhere in the neighborhood of about 50 hours, depending upon the officer that works the grant. It's based on their rate of pay, but on average, you get about 50 hours. And what you'll see is the officers will work anywhere from 4 to 6 hours at a time.
Thank you.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
one last question, Chief. Do you have, do the officers volunteer for this, or are they assigned?
They do. They are, when it comes time to work these grants, they are all volunteer.
Great, thank you.
Have any other questions from the council? I entertain a motion.
There is one more question. Barb scrolled down, and on that document, it shows lines. Are we going to have to all come in and sign that document? Because it shows council member, and then mayor.
No, excuse me. So funny that you bring that up, because I had that same concern. I did check with MoDOT this morning, and as long as the mayor signs off on it, and I've listed your names typed in on the official copy, but the mayor has signed it, and MoDOT they're perfect with that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. I'd like to be welcome to entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to authorize the city of Olivet to enter into 2 traffic enforcement grants with the Missouri Department of Transportation. namely driving while intoxicated and hazardous moving violations for $2,500 and $9,288 respectively.
Have a second?
Second,
Poll the council?
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox,
yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you.
And number 12 is consideration of certain vehicles as surplus.
Bruce McGregor, Public Works Director, is here to talk on that.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Very exciting item today. Another Impala to go to auction. And on the 10-year mark too. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
No,
Miles on that vehicle.
Many miles, Bruce?
Over 100,000 on that one. I don't have the exact number in front of me. I was trying to log into the fuel system to pull it. And for some reason I can't, my connection has timed out. That vehicle, I think went from a police chief to a detective to a planning director and is now in a planning department fleet. So it has moved through many staff members.
Does it have a CD player in it?
That's a great question. Carlos, do you recall, does that one have a CD player in it?
I think it has 8-track.
I believe so.
But I think it has a auxiliary input or
Yes, that it did.
for an iPod player.
All of those police cars, they're all V8s, aren't they?
No.
No.
Sixes.
sixes, yeah.
The 6, okay. Just curious.
Yeah, after we left the Fords, we went to sixes. Yeah, V6s.
That's too bad.
So, and on the discussion of the DWI checkpoints, the grant vehicle that we got, the first SUV we got, or maybe the second, a Ford Interceptor SUV, that one is moving from the police department to the planning department for the newly promoted inspector to have a larger vehicle and 4-wheel drive. So we've just about finished putting the seats and all the other items back in after it comes back from the company that puts in the radios and the cages in the back and so on.
Was that the black one, Bruce?
Yes, exactly.
That was free to the city.
Right.
From MoDOT.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need so is it that you need a motion to declare the asset 1328 as surplus?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So moved.
Welcome a motion.
I motion to declare assets 1328 as surplus.
Second,
Sorry, Rick.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Councilmember Knox,
yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you.
Item number 13 is hearing from citizens, part 2.
Nobody's left.
Okay. Item number 14 is review and approval of minutes.
I saw no changes.
Look good.
Welcome a motion to approve those minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from work session February 15th, 2022 and council meeting February 8th, 2022.
Second,
All right, we could poll the council, please.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox,
yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed. Item number 15 is the city attorney's report.
Mayor, I have no report, but would request a closed session under attorney-client communications, section 610.021.1.
So moved.
Second. Before we go and take the vote, I would like to express something to my fellow council members. The Municipal League meeting, February 24th, Pat Kelly just came out with an email that is going to be a Zoom meeting due to the weather. Jim Wild of the East West Gateway Council of Governments on the federal recovery funds will be speaking in the program, and Cordell Whitlock with Vector Communications. And some reason Vector Communications is ringing a bell in my head. He'll be dealing with the survey on the future plans for Steinberg Skating Rink. And my issue is if it's Zoom and you want to be there, be there. It's Zoom. All right. Thank you so much.
Member Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Fast enough.
Now, I make a motion to adjourn, or you need to report the meeting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No votes taken. Yeah.
All right. I second that motion.
Okay.
And good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.